Nick, thank you and the SMWW staff, and great to be here. Trey, good to have you here, and John, good to have you here. We love baseball. I'm 77. I've been watching baseball, 72 years, and I've been going to major league games since 1955, the old Kansas City A's. And this is the most exciting time. I'm wearing my Saudi Arabia baseball jersey that was given to us by one of our students in Saudi Arabia, Matt Judd, that might be in there today, but we got a good group and it's all about you and you get to ask questions. But Trey, I get to go first. It's my company and I appreciate you taking the time in today. But we got to assume you went to high school. You got to tell us your story from high school to where you are today. Go ahead, Trey.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for everyone joining. Really cool. First of all, I saw someone here is from Budapest, Hungary. Small world. My grandfather
Yeah.
grew up in Hungary, and just shows how global
Yeah.
sports are in general. So really, really cool. As far as high school, started in Richmond, Virginia. Went to a school called James River High School. Pretty good baseball team. Played with multiple division. I think my senior class had 8 or 9 Division I athletes on the team. I was the fifth best pitcher, so clearly wasn't good enough to play super long term. But did get a chance to play at the Virginia Military Institute, where my whole family attended. Incredible experience that completely reformed and reshaped my life.
Yeah.
Was lucky enough to play there for a year until my body decided that I was too injury prone, and my mind decided that I wasn't as good as I thought I was originally. So, quickly decided to transfer and figure out, what is it that I want to do in my life. I knew I wanted to go to this school and I wanted to, potentially serve. Knew I wanted to potentially go to medicine. But as I got further and further away from playing, I realized that the only thing I wanted to do was be around the sport that I loved so much throughout my life. And started to search out and find, what is it that I could do in this game. And I came across SMWW and a few other areas, and met some mentors along the way, such as Dan Evans. And, they really helped put me on a pathway to reaching out to people and doing a lot of informational interviews. And I reached out and I applied to every team, over 100 positions that I applied for, and 99 of them said no. And it was a really difficult time in my life trying to work through that rejection, but
Yeah.
it completely transformed who I am today and who I was back then. And lucky enough, the Pirates said yes to an internship in baseball operations, and that was 10 years ago. And now I've been with the same organization for 10 years, working in the same department, and now helping lead the charge.
Trey, you'll appreciate this. When I started the company, because we can't guarantee jobs, I caught 13 foul balls, and I always said you have to have a ticket to the game to catch a foul ball. And I think those 99 rejections, you just got to keep going to the game, and that's what you did. I admire you so much. Trey, walk us through your job, your first job when you got with the Pirates, and kind of walk us through the evolution of your professional career.
My first job was to do anything that I was told and to do everything that nobody else wanted to do. That's the simplest way of putting it. There were incredible glamorous moments through that experience that I was learning from mentors that I looked up to my entire life. People like Neil Huntington and Kevin Graves and
Yeah.
Will Lawton and other folks within the Pirates organization that helped teach me from the ground up what it was to work in a Major League
Yeah.
Baseball front office. But in that first year, I was doing anything from identifying players that we liked or, market trends that we believed that were going to help impact a trade to taking out the trash during a meeting or setting up video services for us at 6 in the morning before a meeting. Um, and so it's really kind of all hands on deck, do as much as you possibly can. And, obviously I've moved up throughout that department in the last 10 years, but really, the beautiful thing about working in a front office is that no day is ever the same. You can come in with 10 things on your checklist and you might get to one of them and you might add 10 more to your list. And it's
Yeah.
a dynamic industry that you have to, constantly bob and weave and figure out what it is that you need to do in
Right.
order to help the team win. But really anything regarding roster construction, acquisition strategy, contract negotiation, rule compliance, payroll, culture, you name it, we have a hand
Yeah.
in it. And our goal is obviously to hoist that trophy over our head one day and bring home
Right.
something to the city.
Right. Trey, I've watched the evolution of baseball, particularly the last 3 or 4 years, including the pitch clock. But talk about the impact on the game, the quality of life, just with the pitch clock in the operations and family and everything else. Talk about that a little bit from the inside.
Well, my wife certainly enjoys it because I get home in a better hour every night. and just to be able to see my kids. So that at a
Right.
personal level, it's not something that you often think about when you see these rule changes happening, but it impacts the families, the fans, the
Yeah.
players. It took some getting used to. There was some concerns on injuries, and there was concerns on how would this impact the game. And I still don't know to this day if we have all of those answers, but what I do know is that it's shortened the game. It's made it more
Yeah.
digestible for fans. It's allowed
Right.
for what I believe to be a more entertaining spectacle,
Right.
and has certainly been a good addition to the sport.
Hey, we all that follow baseball watch the World Baseball Classic. I remember as a little kid, World Series. We didn't invite anybody else in the world. Where baseball is today, watching from the inside, where you are in the professional staff. Your comments on the World Baseball Classic and its impact on the games as we go into this final year of the CBA.
Well, first of all, I got to attend Venezuela versus the Dominican this year in Miami.
Unbelievable.
And what an incredible experience. One, to
Yeah.
see some incredibly talented baseball players on the field, but really more
Yeah.
importantly, it's to see the
Yeah.
environment and the culture
Yeah.
of these different countries and what it means to these
Right.
countries to win. There's just a different level. There's different traditions. There's different noises and musical instruments, and
Yeah.
they just carry themselves differently. And so to be in a stadium packed with people who are passionate about the culture of their country and
Right.
bringing something new, and I think the beauty of it too is I didn't see anyone who was disrespecting another country or who was,
Yeah.
being rude to
Yeah.
people. They were celebrating it. They were coming together to celebrate this incredible game that everybody, who's on this call loves and is passionate about. And it's a pretty incredible experience to see that energy. And it's cool to see it, growing in other smaller countries, to
Yeah.
see what Italy did and how that's impacting the world over
Yeah.
there. It's just really
Yeah.
special. Sorry, my 4-year-old is
Oh,
behind.
I love it.
I
No, we're
apologize.
family first. I want everybody to have their questions. Start typing them in or raise your hand and let me know. How you doing, buddy? My
Sorry.
grandkid is over in Abu Dhabi, if I may, and he loves baseball too. And it it's and Trey, I got to tell you real quickly, my son, he had a Kansas City Royals hat on. He's fine, Trey. He had his hat on, and my son said, "Oh, you're Bobby Witt Jr." And my grandson, who's not even 5, said, "No, I'm Salvi." So you can tell the impact of what Salvi's had on the game. One more question here. Nick, start encouraging people to give us the questions. But Trey, the global audience in the talent discovery and your scouting operations, if I may, the international. We got to keep our eyes on every talent around the world. Tell me what that's been like the last 5 years.
Well, I started here and it was pretty cool in that we got to see the first players ever from Lithuania and from South Africa play in the Major League Baseball.
Wow.
And that was a pretty incredible experience to show how this has grown in countries that, prior to that had no experience in this world. And so naturally we've had to spread out our we've had to spread out our uh, scouting coverage all over the world to ensure that we're not leaving any stones unturned and that we're finding the
Yeah.
best talent around the world. And I think that's provided incredible opportunities for
Yeah.
development for these players and
Yeah.
investments in their countries, and it's been very special.
And Sherry, one other question. Please start, raise your hand. We'll go to the hands here in a minute. But my question is now with college baseball, and we watch Oregon State down the street from us in Portland in college baseball, and Travis Bazzano was the #1 draft pick with Cleveland a couple years ago from Australia. But talk about college scouting and the pros. There's a lot of things going on right now in the world of talent discovery. When you talk about high schools, they used to get drafted and goes directly to the minors. Some go to college now. There's NIL. Just give us a little of the equation before we take questions from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the college scene has certainly been influenced by a lot of different factors. One, the players are being able to get paid for their likeness and their brand, which has been special for them in order to, make money for their families and life-changing deals for them. And so, naturally that creates different leverage behind negotiating with them and
Yeah,
determining whether or not they're going to come play pro ball. And so, if anything,
right.
it's just provided multiple avenues for them
Yeah,
to make decisions for their loved ones, which has been very special.
yeah. Let's go to Jim Gleason as a question. Come in with your introduction, Jim, and go right to Trey. Go ahead. Thanks for coming in, Jim.
Hey guys, appreciate your time. Jim Gleason from New Jersey. I'm in the GM and scouting. Trey, just wanted to speak, as you spoke about, it's crazy competitive to get in. And then when you did get in, you just grind and had to add value to any position. Can you just speak to kind of a little bit of that and maybe some pivots that you're like, didn't really think about this, but there's going to add value to me as a value to a candidate and just keeping the job?
Yeah, I think people oftentimes think about the game when they're trying to get in, and they only think about the yes moment and that idea of I'm going to get in, and that's good. People should be dreamers, but I think being able to reflect and learn from rejection is such an important step in that journey, and it stings at the time. I remember having tears in my eyes and calling my mom and dad and not being able to put into words how I couldn't understand why I didn't get this job. I felt like I was doing everything that I possibly could. And sometimes it just felt like it was unlucky or it was the wrong
Yeah,
time, or maybe I didn't pour in enough into a
yeah,
relationship. And, in those moments of rejection and sting, it really helped me reflect on what is it that I'm doing well? What is it that I need to improve upon? Or maybe it just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right moment. It wasn't the right God moment
yeah,
for me to figure out where I wanted to be.
yeah,
And at the time, it's easier for me to say in hindsight, obviously, that you can look back at those experiences. But what it taught me is that once you got your job inside the industry, you still have those moments. You still have those moments where you feel like you're getting rejected or you don't know if you're going
yeah,
to make it, or man, I just want to get full time, or I just want this promotion, or I can't figure out like why we're losing these
yeah,
games. We're playing good baseball
yeah,
and we're losing.
yeah,
And so it helps you work through that. It helps me
yeah,
kind of cope with the rejection or the
yeah,
struggles that happen thereafter. So if anything, I just say that, it's just as equal as part of your journey.
yeah,
Run towards that rejection, run towards it
yeah,
and break through the wall when you can. And if you don't, get up and try
yeah.
again.
Some
Okay, before I
stuff.
go to JD, let's talk a little bit about your book. You have passion in your voice of helping people. You care. You've been a great, not only student, a graduate, but also an ambassador for SNWW. We always appreciate you, and you come to our conference every year. But let's talk about that upcoming book because I think it's really cool, and I can't wait to read it, and I can't wait to endorse it.
Well, I appreciate it. And it's been a really special journey. My grandmother, who's one of my personal heroes, almost 90 years old, still incredibly with it, incredibly smart, incredibly passionate about expressing yourself through writing. And I told her in middle school years and years and years ago that I wanted to write a book. And I wanted to see through that dream. My mom talks often about, needing to chase dreams and needing to have big, big sights in front of you. And about a year ago, I decided to chase that dream and to, reach out to my grandmother and ask her to be a part of this.
That's
And
so
it's called
great.
Chasing Dreams: How to Land a Job in Sports. And I remember going through that process of trying to get a job and not knowing what the next day was going to carry. And I didn't have a lot of people to ask for advice or how to work through this,
Yeah,
different variable or factor. And so I
yeah,
thought to myself, I have a lot of people who reach out to me on LinkedIn. It used to be that I could respond to everybody and I would try to get on the phone 5 times a week and it'd be great. And now I have 3 boys under the age of 4. Obviously, you guys just met 2 of them. I have 3 boys under the age of 4 and I work ridiculous hours and I love what I do. And unfortunately, I can't give back the same hours that I wish I could to the
yeah.
next generation. And so I thought to myself, why not write a book where I can hopefully
That's so
give back
great.
to just a few
Yeah,
people? And I hope it will be impactful. There's over 50 interviews in there with
yeah,
different people from managers and general managers and scouts and agents and everyone.
yeah,
There's advice, there's stories, and
yeah,
I think it's just something that will be able to resonate. There's no
yeah.
right or wrong answer as to how to get into the game. You just have to create your own pathway.
Well, we can't wait to be part of that showing and get the word out around the world. Let's go to JD with your introduction and questions or comments for Trey.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on here, Trey
You
and
bet.
Lynn. Um, my question is
Where, where are you from?
oh, I'm from the Philadelphia area. From
And
the
what do you do
Philadelphia
for a
area.
living?
What's that?
What do you do for a living?
I work in sales. That's what
Good
I
to
was
have
going
you
to
in.
actually, yeah, I was going to say from a front office perspective, how does it like go for somebody who has like 20 years of being a sales and sales manager in a bunch of different industries,
Yeah,
that I've been in. I haven't worked in baseball, but I've loved
yeah.
baseball since being a
Great
kid.
question.
My background is in sales, and I'm wondering how
Yeah,
that would translate
yeah.
into this.
Yeah,
Great
well,
question. Go ahead, Trey.
the first thing that comes to mind is that there's so many pathways into this game, right?
Hmm.
Like You might want to be a general manager, you might want to be a scout, you might want to work in sales on the baseball side. So it really depends on what route you're going after. And ultimately, you might find that in that journey towards that route, you might find that something else becomes really appealing, or you might find that there's another area of the game that you're passionate about, or you might find that your calling isn't to work in an organization, but it's to work for a website that promotes baseball, or it might be working for Team Italy or
Yeah.
something else. And so there's so many ways about it. It's not just the 30 front offices that are in the sport. Of course, that's a great route. I love what I do. But you have to find a way to make yourself stand out. I won't lie, it's difficult breaking in when you're mid-career, depending on what your expectations are, because the easiest way of getting into the game is starting out at the entry level, which is typically within an internship that comes with lower pay and
Yeah.
longer hours. And so if you're not willing to do that, or if your route looks different because you're supporting a family or whatever it might be, you just have to find a way to make yourself stand out. So what I would recommend is find a way within your current job that makes you stand out as to what you do, something that's measurable. And then on top of that, find something that shows that you've implemented your passion in a different way. You can't just say, "Hey, I love baseball." Everybody on this call, every person that replies to a job, they all love baseball. And there's no one here that loves the game more than me. That's what someone would say, right? And that goes nowhere because passion is a requirement to be in this game. So find something that shows your passion has been implemented into action. That's the
Yeah.
key.
And Trey, I think, and not being self-serving here, JD's invested in learning baseball from the SMWW faculty, the Dan Evans of the world, and others. But I admire people that try to get better because sales is sales, and you can learn the Rolodex in baseball. We get a lot of quality people that don't have no Rolodex, but are come here to get a Rolodex. So I'm excited. Let's go to Tyrone next with your introduction and question for Trey.
Hey Trey, how you doing? I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a forensic video analyst. So I kind of got two questions. When someone submits a resume, do you view it yourself or does it actually go through an ATS system?
So
Good
I can't speak
question.
for every organization, but we do have
Right.
a system that, if we have qualifiers on there, if you have to have a high school degree and you put no, then yes, that would be disqualified. But then everything that passes through that, and it's a pretty small like number of disqualifying questions, they
Mhm.
all get sent to me or to whoever the hiring manager is. And then that individual is going through. I mean, typically, this isn't meant to scare anybody, but when we post an internship for baseball operations, my department, we typically get between 800 and 1,200 applicants in about a week. And I'm individually going through almost all of them. There might be 50 that get disqualified. And I'm individually going through each one of them. But what you all have to remember, and this is my advice to everyone when you think about resume creation, you have to remember that because I have 800 to 1,200 to go through, I can give every resume between 5 and 10 seconds if you're
Yeah.
lucky before I move on to the next one. So you have to find a way to grab my attention immediately. And that doesn't mean just in your resume. It can be in a follow-up email. It can be in a reference. It can be in a project that you send me. There's lots of different ways to stand out, but your goal has to be to capture them in that first 5 to 10 second window, or you're just going to go into the pile that's not going to get looked at again.
And do you
What was your
actually need a
Go ahead.
degree?
It depends on the role that you're looking
Yeah.
for. So it's just very contingent on what you're looking at and what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, real quick, let me rephrase that. My background's in journalism and law, okay? But I noticed some of the qualifications are looking for, let's say, somebody in quantum statistics and stuff like that. Now, I know SQL and R and Python, but my background would show law and journalism, even though I know these things. So, how can I tie that in, so to speak, for lack of
Well,
a.
you're doing it by coming into this and getting involved with our company. You're doing a good job. But Trey, I got to stay on that topic a little bit. Corey Schwartz with Last Doc Talk from MLB. The question somebody said, I don't have a high school degree, similar to
Mhm.
his question though, and or a college degree. And they said, no, we don't look at that. And I think what you're saying, Trey, there's a lot of ways that you can get into the game and don't limit yourself by the pre-assumption that you don't have this degree or that major. Am I right, Trey?
Absolutely. And to
Yeah.
your initial question there, Tyrone, um, I totally understand, what your background is. Your
Hmm.
goal should be to show that you have other things beyond just that background. So find a way to highlight those skills. It could be via your resume and saying, "Oh, I know SQL and I know Python and R and all these different
Uh-huh.
things." Or better, they could be sending code to somebody and showing the application of it. Hey, I have a law degree or I have a law background, and by the way, here's a project that I did in R to help show the regression of X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z. And so
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
that's another good way of doing it.
Good stuff. Let's go to
Thanks.
Peyton with your introduction and question for Trey. Peyton, welcome in.
Hi, how are you guys doing? My
Good.
name's I'm from the Bahamas. Um, I graduated from Caldwell University in New Jersey, and I am in the baseball agent program. So my question is more from your perspective, what practices or communication strategies help create the most productive and cohesive relationships between the operations side of it and then the baseball agent, like kind of merging together?
I love this
That's a good
question.
question.
I love
Yeah.
this question. Man, it's not a simple answer, but I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can. Trust, honesty, and genuine
Yeah.
connection. I
Yeah.
cannot state that more. When I get on the phone with an agent, of course I want to sign the player, but it comes at a cost. And that cost is the relationship that you're building. And what I tell agents all the time is I would rather lose your player and not get them by telling you the truth about what our opportunity is, or telling you the truth about our organization, or telling you the truth about what our plan is for that player. And if that doesn't line up with what that player wants, then that's okay because that means that he shouldn't be here. He should go somewhere else. And that stings. That's not fun because, of course, I want to sign those players. But what I do know is that that relationship that I'm building with that individual right then and right there is going to lead to me being able to sign more players in the future. And it's not using them, it's building an actual genuine relationship. I know their families' names, I know their kids. I call them to just talk about life. I don't call them just to say, "Hey, I want your player." I call to check in on them. I text them when they get a player signed to a big contract. I say, "Wow, it's an incredible contract. Good job. Like I wouldn't have given you that, but I'm glad you got that." So it's all
Yeah.
about connecting in a way that shows that you care and that you're genuine and you're doing it for the right reasons.
And Trey, staying on that topic, some people come, they want to be a scout, and then they realize they can be an NIL agent or an agent. I call it pivoting. You brought it up earlier too. You come with an idea, but you're pivoting just like you've pivoted in the organization. And that's all part of the beauty of sports. There's a lot of maneuvering that goes on to where you end up and where you will end up. Let's go to Robbie with your introduction.
Hey,
Robbie,
how's it
welcome in.
going? Hi, I'm a software. My name's Robbie. I'm a software engineer living in Boston now, but I'm a huge Yinzer. I went to Pitt. You see the terrible towel behind me, so it's great to talk to you. Love the Buccos. My question, I have a couple questions actually. The first one is, as someone who's in tech and looking to break into sports, I know a big part of that is building up your personal portfolio, personal projects. Sometimes I could kind of struggle with putting together the data that's needed for those. Do you have any recommendations as far as where to find that data and how to kind of put that together?
Man, good question. I'm not really sure I do have the answer for you, unfortunately. What I would recommend when people don't have the answer, including myself, reach out to as many people and ask that question.
Yeah.
Build relationships with
Sure.
those people and ask that, especially people who work in areas in which, data collection is crucial to what they're doing.
Yeah.
But there's lots of public sources, whether it be, Baseball Savant or Fangraphs or areas like this. It just depends on the project that you want, how in depth you need to go in order to find it.
Yeah, and
Makes sense.
Trey, I got to be honest with you. When we started the company on a napkin, I did minimum two informational interviews, and of course, I realized somebody did 30 and became a scout for the California Angels. He lived in Clovis, New Mexico. My point was, informational interviews we design, and we send them a Starbucks gift card. But those questions too can be asked to different leaders in the business of baseball if you do it the right way. And I take a lot of pride. I like the young man's question, and those questions can be asked when they take a course. They go out and talk to people about that same question that you're trying to answer. Do you have a follow up, sir,
I
Robbie?
do,
Before
yeah.
I,
Just
yeah,
just
go
one
ahead.
other one. This is the software engineer in me. This might be a little niche, so I apologize in advance. But I know at least in our industry, there's a lot of we're using a lot of generative AI and agents like Claude and ChatGPT, and that's changing the way a lot of us work. I'm curious if that sort of is taking place in baseball as well, or if there's any, or if that's starting to take root there.
Good question. Good stuff.
Well, I'm disappointed you didn't ask any Pittsburgh questions, but I will answer this for you. Um, yeah,
My bad.
it's changing. It's changing how we're doing things on a daily basis, and we're still trying to figure it out, right? Like we don't have all of the answers, and I'm so curious to see where the game goes a decade from now. Because where I can tell you where I started a decade ago, this wasn't even in my purview, and I had no idea what the game was going to look like. And if people would have asked me back then, "Hey, what's the next competitive advantage?" It wouldn't have been that. And that's really exciting for the game. The game is really changing significantly. And we are using it on a significant basis. In reality, the easiest way that I can simplify it is that human beings are flawed in a lot of ways, right? It's difficult to take as much information as possible and turn it into actionable thoughts and problem
Yeah.
solving. And also, some of these technologies are also flawed, so let's not forget that. It's not a perfect solution to this.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about it is that when you marry the two of them and you learn from the technology what's happening and what kind of trends are
Yeah.
that it's showing, and then you marry that with the context of the human being and taking the problem solving of the experience with that individual, that's where the magic is made, in my opinion. And I think that we're
Great
trying to
stuff.
harness that as we speak.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great stuff. Let's go to Kenny next.
Yeah, hi, Trey. Nice to meet you, sir. Appreciate the time. And Dr. Lynn and Nick, thank you again for an awesome doc
You
talk.
bet. Thank you.
This is the fourth one I've been on. Everyone knocks it out of the park, baseball.
No pun intended, right?
Trey, I have kind of like two questions. They may or may not go together. The first one is this. As you alluded to when you spoke, you send out resumes and you try to get in the door. Well, now that I've done that, how do I really get in the door and meet someone like you or anybody that I want so that I can make them aware personally of my financial services background, my sports background, and how I want to mesh those two together to land a position in baseball?
And Trey, let me say something to this young man for a moment. I believe a lot of people that have the financial services, they need to go to the market of representing high school athletes that are looking for a place to go to college, NIL, financial. Some kids are making millions of dollars at 17. You'll meet all the GMs as you represent players. Now that's not a pivot mandate here. I'm going to let Trey answer, but I want you to know you already have the services. Families would be very impressed. A few representation, then all of a sudden somebody in MLB asks you to come on their side. It happens all the time. Just getting you in the ecosystem would be my goal. But Trey, your comment to that?
Cast a wide net. Send a
Yeah,
net out
cast
into
a
that
wide net.
water without holes in it. And what I mean by that is
Yeah,
it's going to feel daunting. It's going to feel overwhelming. And you might talk to 200 people, and those 200 people might feel like they're not going to help you get to that next level. But there's going to be one person in that 200 that's going to change your life. And for me, when we started doing those informational interviews through SMWW, I sent over 800 emails. And I got responses to about 50 or 60 of them. So pretty bad hit rate. If I was in the major leagues and I had that hit rate, I would be demoted and released pretty quickly. And in that moment, it felt again that sting, that rejection. I couldn't understand it. And some of those calls that I got on, some people were nasty to me, and they weren't very respectful, and I couldn't understand it. And I questioned, like, is this the industry that I want to be into? And luckily, I had one call with someone named Will Lawton who changed my life and gave me an opportunity. And I talked to him on the phone for about an hour, and he was sitting in San Francisco's ballpark. And I didn't know what would come of it. I didn't ask him for a job. Everybody knows you want a job when you reach out. You don't need to share that. But I built a relationship. I built a genuine connection with him, and it forever changed my life. And I still have an incredible relationship with him till today. And so you just have to find that one person, and it just means casting that wide net. Not,
yes,
you know, try not to limit yourself to geographic
yeah.
locations or to money or to responsibilities or to a specific team or to a role or to a title, whatever it might be. The more limitations you put on yourself, the smaller net that you're going to cast. And so, to your best of your ability, cast the widest net you possibly can.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Trey, a couple more. Oh, go ahead. You want to finish
Well,
this? I'm sorry.
I wanted to say, you talked about very briefly, all it takes is one. That's my attitude. That's my approach. It only takes one. I'll go 100, 200, whatever. But here's what I've encountered recently and in the past. It's a timing thing. When you have a team that doesn't qualify for the playoffs, they may not have a desire to talk to anybody for whatever their reasons are.
Yeah.
Teams that make the postseason, their seasons are longer, then they get into the off season, then it's almost next season, and they think they have the success. They're not looking to add on new people or another person because they have established departments. How do I deal with that in your personal
Well, I
life?
want to say something. I take rejection like Trey did, and it's called the walk-on approach. Don't give up. You're here
Oh, yeah.
looking. Come to our conferences. We're going to continue to help you. Trey, we got one more question here, and I think
Thank
Dan
you.
Evans is in here too. Yeah, thank you, sir. Nick, who's our next person?
We'll
I
go
would
with
go.
Louise.
Okay, go ahead, Luis.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Lasnik,
How you doing,
Trey,
buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Good to see you all after the winter meetings. Those familiar faces. Thank you for the opportunity. Um, Trey, my name is Luis. I'm from Miami. I was born in Venezuela originally. I have been dedicating over 10 years in the hospitality industry, restaurants and operations. And I'm a former GM scouting alumni as in WW. I'm currently also enrolled with development, waiting on deck for those classes to start. And I'm also certified on strength and conditioning. I'm to try to put my foot at the door and connecting, building relationships, and how to be in the business. So, my question to you, been in hospitality and operations, hotels and restaurants, how a lot of people like things right away, done and results. How will it translate into your position and your experience
Good
according
question.
to
Good. Let him answer. Let him answer.
And it's a cutthroat industry that we work in at times, and it demands results, to your point. Doesn't mean that there's not timelines involved or, different lengths of time in which you can come up with those. But at the end of the day, it's a highly volatile industry, which means that we need to show results and we want to win. And the beautiful thing about working in this industry and in this world is that you're surrounded by incredibly aspirational people who are incredibly dedicated to their craft, and they are going through the same shared sacrifices and the shared passion that you hold. And so you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people who hold you to a high standard. And ultimately, when you're surrounded by that, it's going to lead to results. Sometimes it might not always lead to results directly on the field, but it's our job to deliver tools and resources and recommendations and data-driven decisions and scouting and subjective related decisions. We have to deliver those in a timely manner because ultimately, sometimes there's rules on the lines in which you actually have to, you have to show that you're in compliance with that. Other times, you need to be the ones to beat the other teams. We have to get to a decision before somebody else does, or else they're going to get the player or they're going to make the decision quicker or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's important that you get it right. It's important that you happen quickly, and it's important that it's impactful.
Thank you so much. If Trey, if you don't mind, if you can
thank you.
stay in a few more, we got some questions here. We'll go quickly with them because I don't want to keep you longer than an hour because I don't want your kids starving to death. Let's go to Jason with your question.
Hey, how's it going? Pleasure to listen to you talk. My name's Jason. I'm an elementary phys ed teacher from Manhattan, New York. And I'm enrolled in the baseball links course. My question is, where do you think the next market inefficiency is in terms of like player skill sets or game strategies? Like things I have in mind was like when framing became like a known metric that people were paying attention to, or even last year in the playoffs where it seemed like there was a lot of splitters that were having a high success rate. So where do you think the next inefficiency may be?
It's an incredible question. A few things come to my mind. One, I believe some of these inefficiencies are cyclical. And what I mean by that is that when I got into this game, four-seam fastballs at the top of the zone were all of the rage. Everybody had to do it. And guess what? Hitters have now adapted. Hitters have been trained since they were in high school now to hit that pitch. And now two seams down the zone are now becoming more impactful than they were previously. Same goes for when the sweeper was all the rage a year ago, and then hitters developed the skill set to hit the sweeper, and now it's less impactful than it was. But eventually, one day, that pitch will come back because people aren't going to be adapted to that. So that's my first answer. I think some of these things are cyclical and that you'll just see things reappear. The second thing that I think is going to be really impactful that I'm not sure how precise we'll be able to get to is some of the sports science type situations. And what I mean by that is like how do we keep players healthy? How do we maximize their deployment? How do we ensure that we're putting them in situations where their bodies are most prepared, whether it be via nutrition, via recovery, via medical services, whatever it might be? It's really difficult to measure and it's really difficult to get right. And the reason for that is because the human body is so complex. But I think the teams that provide resources into that space are going to find competitive advantages of just keeping players on the field and maximizing their performance.
Good stuff. Let's go to Phil and then we'll go to Matt. Phil.
Hey Trey, nice to meet you. Phil in Nashville. I'm in the GM and scouting course. And just a quick question here. We spoke on our class Zoom Monday night with Hank Jones, talking a little bit about minor leagues and the structure of a minor league front office, if you will. One thing we specifically discussed was the GM of a minor league team had given some feedback to one of my classmates stating that they don't really do anything personnel-wise. They're more just running the business side of things. So being in Nashville and no major league team yet, I would look at the Sounds, a AAA team. Is there any, I guess my question is there any way to break in with a minor league team? Or is that all just kind of run from the main team when it comes to any sort of analytical scouting role or anything like that? Does that make sense?
Good question.
Yeah, so
Good
you
question.
certainly can break in on the business side, to your point, right? There's sales and marketing and lots of different areas that you would still be able to impact the team, which ultimately that gets your foot in the door so you can build relationships in other ways and build experiences in that way. The other thing is that, on the baseball side, personnel related, whether it be scouting, whether it be coaching, whether it be analytics, whatever you want to call it, that is all coming from the parent club or, from the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Milwaukee Brewers or whomever. But you can get opportunities through there that happen directly in Nashville, right? Like you could be a coach for the Nashville Sound, or you could be a technology operations assistant, or something of that regard. It's just harder to find that's a specific location because typically these roles are listed as like player development roles, and then they place you wherever is appropriate.
Right. Thank you so much. Let's go to Matt Judd, my good friend.
Hey, Lynn. Hey, Trey. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on here. Trey, my question, I hope is the easy one for you. This is position specific for you. What would you say is your greatest pain point in your role in operations presently? Thanks.
He's in
Man,
Saudi Arabia. He knows a little bit about pain points.
the biggest pain point, first of all, is losing. I'm tired of losing. That's a big pain point. I would say it's not being able to control everything. There's things that are out of your control on a daily basis. And we preach this to our people all the time. Control what you can control. And oftentimes you find yourself going down rabbit holes trying to control things that you actually can't control, whether that be performances on a field or an injury or a rule that is, has a gray area and the league's not letting you do something. I think those are oftentimes the biggest pain points because your mind goes to this like hamster wheel of why can't we do this and why can't we get over this hump? And when you see the results on the field and you go, our team is better than this. Why is this happening? And then all of a sudden you see, oh, well, other teams have been most lucky against you. And you go, well, that's just not fair. Like that shouldn't happen. And
Good
so,
answer.
ultimately just wanting to make sure that you
Yeah.
can control what you can control.
Good answer. Let's go to John with your quick question. John fronting up. John, you got it. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Trey. Nice seeing you again. I got a question on the baseball operations side. So I've been doing local scouting around the Houston area and sending scouting reports to some of the area scouts. I also want to work on my baseball operations skills. How do I improve that without being rude and cold calling an organization saying like, hey, I think you should trade for this guy or sign this guy, which I feel like you probably have a million of those, and you can turn on the radio and hear a million hot takes on who your team should sign or trade. So how do you think I should go about that?
I'd say the first thing is identifying what you're most passionate about on the club side, right? Is it arbitration? Is it roster moves? Is it transactions? Is it payroll? Is it roster management? Lots of different ways that you can go about this. Once you've identified what your passion is, then find a project that you can work towards and have an end goal in sight. And that can be a part of your portfolio that you're then sending to people. Of course, if you reach out once a week with, hey, you should sign this guy and sign this guy, you're right. I'm probably going to be a little frustrated. But if you reach out to me after 6 months and you go, hey, I've been spending the last 6 months putting this project together and I've been working really hard on it and here's the result, good chance I'm going to respond with feedback. And by the way, don't be frustrated if you don't get a response from myself or from someone else, because sometimes they either fall through the cracks or you've reached out during a really busy time. And that kind of reminds me, the group should be aware of when are those really, really busy times, and be aware that it's going to cause more rejection and it might leave you in a place where you might not get a response to that. And that doesn't mean that you're doing bad work. It just means that person is ridiculously busy
Yeah.
and sometimes they
Great
can't always
insight.
get through.
Great insight. William, let's go with your quick one. Go ahead, William. We
Yeah.
got pitch clock
Okay.
on you.
Thank you. William, I'm in Connecticut, and I've been in nonprofit world for my career, but I'm making a shift, and I'm in the baseball analytics class. And the Red Sox side of me wants me to ask if Johan Oviedo is going to win 20 games for us this year. But my real question is, what's the kind of analysis and evaluation that goes into decisions like the ones that you guys have just made related to a young star, Connor Griffin?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see him. What's the data? What's the process there with making the decision? Is he coming up now? Shift him to the
Yeah.
minor leagues.
It's a good
Yeah,
question.
it's a complicated one that would probably take us another 4 or 5 hours to get through. But I'll give it to you quickly. First of all, incredibly talented player. It's no secret what he can do on the field. It's really special. Incredible athlete, incredible, just he can impact the game in every facet, and that's really special. And so that's the obvious part, right? So it's easy to quote unquote make a decision on, hey, we should probably try and keep really good baseball players. Easy decision, right? What makes the decision even easier is when you can invest in the human being. And what we do know about Connor is that he's an incredibly thoughtful, respectful kid who wants to get better every single day. And he's incredibly humble and has an incredible humility to him. And those are the ones that when you build that relationship with that individual and you learn about their background and you build a genuine connection, it leads you to then being able to invest in, financially into that individual. And whether or not we come to a spot where, he agrees with the money or we agree with it, we never know, right? It depends on a lot of different factors. But what we do know is that sometimes the hardest barrier is the yes or no on whether or not we should even engage with somebody. And
Right.
when you when you match the potential of the player on the skill side with the human being, that makes our decision a lot easier.
Great stuff. Let's go to Ron. Come on, you guys got to unmute. We got a pitch clock on. Let's go to Arturo.
Okay, I'm ready.
We got him. We got Ron. Let's go. Come on.
No, he can't get going. Let's go to Arturo.
Yep. Hey, Lynn. Hey, Trey. My name is Arturo Martinez. Originally, I'm from Honduras. I am a former SMWW alumni. Now I do athletic operations here in Lancaster for Nook Sports, and I also support match day operations for DC United. My question for you, Trey. I was growing up, maybe we had literally zero baseball fields in Honduras, and now we have Mauricio Dubon, who I believe won a Golden Glove a couple years back. He came from Honduras. And now after this World Baseball Classic, we just see a lot of interest in the sport. So my question is, what advice would you give to sports professionals in the international market as baseball keeps growing and it becomes more popular all over the world?
Yeah, it's a really special moment.
Exciting.
It's a really, really special and exciting moment for baseball. And one piece of advice I would say, just keep grinding, keep learning, keep
Yeah.
testing those waters. And the beautiful part about that is that you have a chance to impact an entire a culture and a country, and you
Yeah.
can bring a sport that's impacted the lives of many, many people in a very positive way. We're in the sport of changing lives, right? Like, our goal is to make the lives of players and fans and the community and the city even better. And that's why I come to work every day, is to win a World Series so that I can
Yeah.
see my next door neighbor who's complained about not winning in 20 years. I want that person to experience the joy and the love
Yeah.
of this game more than
Yeah.
anybody else. And that's why we come to work. And you have an incredible opportunity to be a part of that for your entire country who
Good
doesn't know as
stuff.
much about that game. And so
Yeah.
pretty special environment for you to be in,
Yeah.
and excited to see where that goes.
As I go to Shy, Ron, if you can get your microphone unmuted, I'll let you sneak in here. Shy, go ahead.
Hi,
Ron,
everybody.
you got it? Let me get
Hello.
Ron. Ron, go ahead, Ron.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Don't apologize. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know, just how does someone get involved into a team that's just a regular person, loves baseballs, knows baseball inside and out? Just a simple question.
Let me help with this one real quickly, though. That's what we do for a living. We get your Rolodex. We do resume service. You do information interviews. We send out Starbucks gift cards. Not only Trey, but others benefit from the professional way of getting your Rolodex expanded, as well as we mentor on Sundays. You might want to be an agent and represent 3 kids in baseball. Who knows? But we can help you with that. And I know, Trey, you can add to that, but you know what I mean. That's why I
Okay.
started this company, to help you.
Got you.
There's no such
Yeah.
thing as a normal person. You have superpowers. You know what they are. And
That's
so
good.
you need to identify what those superpowers are, and you need to translate them in a way that somebody's going to connect with them. And what I
Yeah.
would recommend is that, knowing baseball is incredibly important and it is a real skill set. But you then have to apply that and show this individual that you've gone the extra mile, or you've taken something and you've implemented it to show how it's important for their front office. And that's the goal, is when you're surrounded by 1,000 other applicants, you have to be one of those 50 people that stand out to get that second interview or to get that questionnaire. And then from there, it's another step. It's another ability to do that. But I would challenge you and tell you that you're not just a normal person. You have
Yeah.
superpowers and you have dreams that you can apply them to.
Great.
You just have to find out how to apply it.
Great comment. Let's go, folks. We got 4 more here, and then Trey's going to go feed those boys before they attack. Let's go to Shay. Shay.
Hey everybody, thank you for your time, Trey. I appreciate you being here. My name is Shai Cohen. I'm a senior at American International College in Springfield, Mass, from just north of Boston originally, incoming intern with the Hyannis Harbor Hawks in the Cape Cod League this summer. And my question for you guys, or for you, Trey, is on the amateur side, when you kind of evaluating talent and how it will translate, how does your organization, or you specifically, evaluate projecting performance from, let's say, metal environment, NCAA, into wood bat environments like the Cape or Pro Ball? Without getting into anything too specific,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear 1 or 2 indicators you like to look at. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the first thing that's most important, and this isn't answering the specific one about the different bats or the different leagues, but the first thing that's most important is determining what is your vision. What is it that we believe in? What are the pillars that we believe that we can impact the most? Or even more important, what are the pillars that we can't impact? Because we need to find people. If we can't develop a fastball, go find someone who has a good fastball, and then we'll help you develop other things that we know that we're good at. So that's the first thing, is having a vision of what it is that you want to be and what our team wants to be run on, and then go find players that match that. Then, secondly, when it comes to looking at different leagues or different levels of play, you have to look at two different sides of the coin, which is subjective and objective. We have to rely on our scouts and the experience that they have as to, what they're seeing and how they're translating this into the information that they're providing. And then you have to look at the data. How is the ballpark effects? How is the opponent effects? All these different things that you just mentioned. We have models that translates that in a way that, I don't have to think at all. It just does it like that, because we have incredibly smart people who apply that in a way that, creates equal standards across the board for all of these different factors.
Good job. Let's go to Winston, and then we get Thomas. Winston.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Winston Chang here from San Francisco, so lifelong Giants fan. I guess I took success for a little too granted, but I really love hearing your story. I understand you're alumni of the whole course. I guess a couple questions is I went to Johns Hopkins, so I have a lot of experience in terms of other sports analytics with my management consulting job, with like soccer, lacrosse, and golf, like working with TrackMan and Rapsodo, which I did just get a certification in. My question is, so I realize I have to do like submit individual projects or a GitHub of what I've done to make myself more competitive for these jobs. I'm just wondering, I mean, this game's been around for almost 150 plus years. Is there a topic like you guys are kind of tired about, or is there like a specific topic that the Pittsburgh Pirates are really interested in? Like maybe how to have a better offense or like better defensive projections or something like that. Yeah, as I do this individual work, I'd like to stand out and not do something that's so trite, if you know what I mean, Trey.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful question. Off the top of my head, there's not a specific, topic that I'm quote unquote tired of, but I'd say what makes an individual stand out is if you can do a project that relates directly to the Pittsburgh Pirates or whatever team that you're talking to. It's easiest for me to relate to information that I see and can relate it to a player or to a situation or to a roster build or however we want to deem it possible. And so what I would recommend is as you're working through these projects, do it in a way where you can quickly translate this to the Pittsburgh Pirates or to the Toronto Blue Jays or to the Milwaukee Brewers, and you can do it quickly to make it feel like one, it's customized to that individual, and two, it shows that you've gone the extra mile to, take the initiative and show that you can translate this in a way that's directly applicable.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Wentz. Let's go to Thomas and then Prakash and Lewis and baseball, and we're done. And we're going to say goodnight to him. And John will come in and talk to you about SMWW. Go ahead, Thomas.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. My question is kind of piggybacking off of what Phil said earlier about being in Nashville and not having baseball around. So my question is for somebody who I'm just outside of the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. So somebody who really doesn't have baseball around, and due to family issues, not able to relocate for a job, how is it possible to get started? Like as an area scout, possibly? Is that something that
Yeah,
can
it
be
could
done without
certainly.
having to move?
Yeah, it could certainly be an area scout if that's the route that you want to go. But there's also tons of jobs that are remote in today's
Yeah.
game. And, the one thing I would challenge you on is that there's also roles that aren't specifically with a team that are remote. You could work for Baseball America, you could work for Fangraphs, you
Yeah.
could work for there's lots and lots of different spaces within this game that you can impact and make an impact on the sport.
Right.
So, finding something that's remote that
Yeah.
directly, works for you and your family, it might be difficult because you're casting a little bit smaller net than other people, but it's the net that fits and it's the net that works for you.
Yeah, and
Okay,
then
great.
Thomas, the colleges and be an agent advisor in it. There's so many things you can do. Let's go to Prakash.
I saw that you'd done your MBA and worked in other industries as well, right? So how do you look at translating some of that skill from like outside industry to uh, baseball industry? Was it was it much harder to do that, or was like the entering really the harder part?
I love people who come from other industries because they provide
Yeah.
different perspective and they provide different lenses to the game typically. Doesn't mean that people who come from inside the game are at a disadvantage by any stretch of the imagination, but for me, that's a superpower that you have. Like you can speak to the
Yeah.
world in a different light. And sometimes does that come with a little bit more learning curve? Of course. But what we all ultimately do is we're investing in both hard and soft skills. And what I mean by that is, of course, we want you to have the technical background. We want you to know baseball. We want you to be able to apply that. But we also want to find someone who has a growth mindset and has a giver attitude and has good emotional intelligence. And if they have those things, then we know that we can hopefully translate that in a way that is going to build an incredibly talented baseball operations employee. And no one's a finished product.
Yeah.
I'm not a finished product. I've been here for 10 years. I have a lot to learn. I still make mistakes every single day. And I rely on people both above and below me
Yeah.
to challenge me and get better. So we got to
Trey,
find people who can do that.
you're an inspiration. Two more. Whoever's baseball, I don't know that name. That's a pretty generic name to be called baseball. It took your parents a lot of courage. If you don't unmute, we'll go to Luis, with your final question, and then we're gonna let Trey say goodnight.
Okay,
Luis, go
hello,
ahead.
Trey. It's Luis Alvarado. How is it going? I just have one question. What is your advice to keep growing at the business? Sometimes we have dreams to fulfill in the international department, like to be a cross-checker or international director. What is your advice to keep growing in the baseball business?
I would challenge yourself to get 0.1% better every single day. That might sound tiny, it might sound minuscule, but it compounds over time. If you're constantly seeking to get better, you're constantly seeking growth, you're constantly pushing other people to push you, you're gonna compound over time and you're gonna find the opportunities to grow as both a personnel member, you're gonna grow as a husband, as a father, as a son. Um, Always challenge yourself to have a growth mindset, and you have to find out what that looks like, right? Like it's not just as simple as said as done. You have to find, what does your process look like? Are you going to dive into Fangraphs every day and learn something new? Are you going to try and do an informational interview and learn something new from somebody else? Are you going to dive into a project this week and figure out, how to come to a data-driven decision? Are you going to take an SMWW course in order to grow yourself? There's lots of different ways to grow yourself, but you can never be okay with mediocrity or okay with just stopping right there. Always challenge yourself to get better.
Trey, I just want to thank you for taking unselfish time today. You have a family, you got big weekend coming up. It's going to be an exciting year, whether it's my Kansas City Royals or the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think it's really a very unique time with all the challenges out there and what's going on globally. I don't know. I think there's a bright future. I can't wait. I want to say I can't wait to see you next year at baseball winter meetings, but we got to get that winter meetings, and that makes me nervous. But I don't want to talk about collective bargaining agreement today. Trey, any closing comments before I pass the mic to John to explain the SMWW story?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Thanks to you and the rest of SMWW. Thank you to Dan for the incredible mentorship. The golden bridges behind you looks incredible. So I appreciate the support there. I said this earlier in the day, but run towards rejection. Don't be afraid of it. Don't stand away from it. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna be hard, but it's so incredibly worth it. I never feel like I'm going to a job every single day. I love what I do. I love the people that I'm around. I have people in there that's godfathers of my firstborn. I have people who are best friends. I have people who have made experiences in my life that I will never forget. And I never take any day for granted in this game because it's incredibly difficult to get in and it's incredibly difficult to stay. But man, when you're here, it is so, so special and it is such a blessing. And I wish all of you guys good luck. It's a difficult path, but it is so incredibly worth it.
Yeah.
And if you ever have any questions, just find mentors, find mentorship around the world that you can rely on. And it's a pretty special thing.
Trey, let's have a fun year. Let's let Dan have a little comment, John, and Trey, tell your family hi, and Dan say a little remark here before we let John do his little housekeeping duties. And I'm going to run to another family event. And thank you, everybody. Thank you. Go Royals.
Well, I think what everybody saw tonight is this is one of the most special people I've ever met in my career. He's just an absolute, just organic, original, genuine human being. And he's never changed. He's the same person. And his love for people and his ability to do his job just get better and better and better. But I think Trey and I remember when he first took the course and he didn't know where the route was going to go. And he's a self-made guy. I mean, this guy worked hard, got shot down and was reeling from it, and candidly picked himself up, and look where he is today. And it's just the beginning. This is one of the most bright careers you could have among baseball executives. I'd love to work with him again someday. He is just an extraordinary guy. And Trey, I can't thank you enough for helping everybody. This was just an absolute, just rocking virtual. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words.
Of course. Well, Trey, thank you again for coming in. Thank you for the kind words, Dan. You can stick around if you like, but if you need to go take care of your family or need to go do other things, feel free to go now. And as we pass the mic to John, to talk a little bit about what SMWW has to offer.
I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Trey, for coming in, and thank you, Dr. Lashbrook and Nick, for hosting. I've been a sports career advisor at Sports Management Worldwide for 14 years. And I can tell you that I remember when Trey was in the course, I've helped over 1,000 people get jobs in sports. We do all kinds of different sports, scouting, analytics, sales. When Trey was in the course, he was making headway. I was hearing, who is this Trey Rose guy you guys signed up? He's only supposed to do 2 interviews, but he did 25. He's going above and beyond. And Trey alluded to it earlier, but we put you guys in that position where you can do the interviews and you can really make a name for yourself in the sports industry amongst industry professionals and peers. So you do get that in the class. You also get other alumni benefits and tools. You really learn pragmatic skills because like any job, there's prerequisites to the job. And Dan Evans was just in. I'm not sure if he's still in here, but Dan's a rock star. Out of all our 40 courses we offer, he's the best instructor at making recommendations, at mentoring. I read the chat summaries. He's just an eclectic human being who teaches skills, much like Trey and everybody alluded to it. You know your baseball, you know your industry, but you have to do something to set yourself apart. And both individuals do that. And SMWW can really be the forum. And yeah, I want to thank everybody for attending today. And please, if anybody has questions on the courses, I'll stick around and answer any questions you may have.
You know, and I don't know if Trey alluded to this earlier, but there's everyone wants to work in pro ball, right? But there's also a lot of avenues to get into pro ball, regardless if it's through the organization, but also in the college scheme as well. There's significantly more colleges out there than there are pro organizations. So if you're not having the luck, you have a pro ball, a good route is to go to a local university and be able to do some work for them, because now you have that skill set and that body of work and the projects that you've been working on that you can now exemplify to possible employers in the future to go along with that. And so there's many different avenues to be able to get the same aim and goal, and you just got to be able to find exactly what that is. I know at SMWW, sometimes there's a lot of times where you want to be able to put you in the right positions to meet the right people and to be able to be mentored from people who actually live and breathe and in it, so that you're not just watching a YouTube video online. At the same time, we have the career conferences over, and last year we were in Orlando, and it's a great way to meet executives. We had the COO of the Mariners, Trevor Gooby. We had obviously Trey Rose speak. We had the GM of the Reds. Those are the type of people that we have at our conferences, so that you guys can be able to hear from them personally, and if they have time, because we know they have busy schedules with meetings, but be able to chat with them a little bit and kind of get some more insight as well. And there's a ton of networking, afterwards, over at where the main lobbies are, and that sort of thing as well. So that's kind of that's just a small part about what we do, and try to help you grow, whether you want to be a scout, work in the analytics department, be an agent, work in the front office, if you're really passionate about arbitration, all of those things as well. We have the resources and tools to help you, because a lot of times you need the skills to get the job, but a lot of time you need those jobs to get those skills. So we like to be the bridge for you, so that you can be able to be able to have those real life applications, so that when you go into that interview, you're prepared, or when you send in your resume, you stand out. And that's all part of the process with the resume redesign service included with each alum in the class, and each alumni can be able to take our sports career strategies course, where we go further into the job application process, cover letters, interview prep, and kind of where to look at and all of that as well. So, well, if there's no other questions, we'll give a minute or so. If not, then thank you very much for everybody for coming in, taking time and listening in.